Hi, I'm Laurie, and welcome back to the Diaries of the Neurospicy Coach. So, today I really want to talk about RSD. Now, if you don't know what RSD means, it's called Rejection Sensitivity Dysphoria. And a lot of neurodivergent women would experience this, okay? So, you might have heard of it before, and you might have experienced it before without even actually knowing. So, I think when we think of RSD, people think of like, oh, getting ghosted and then feeling just really crappy within ourselves. But honestly, it shows up more than we actually realize. So I'll give you an example. One of my clients does not want to ever send form analysis to my form analysis coach, Simon. And when I asked her why, she was like, because if he corrects something, that means I'm a failure and I'll never want to step into the gym again. And I was just like, huh? Because even though I experienced RSD, like we obviously experience it in different ways. And I was just like, but wouldn't you look at it as being better? It's not as, exactly as if you're being wrong. It just means you're going to be better at it. And she was like, but no, it's not. It like if he corrects me, it means that I'm doing it wrong and I'll just be embarrassed and I'll never step foot into the gym again. So that is like RSD. It can also be obviously like if you text your best friend and they don't reply, and you might see that they're online on Instagram and they're commenting to other people but they haven't texted you back. Your brain is like, oh my god, I'm annoying, they hate me, I've done something wrong. And then you just start feeling like this guilt, and then you might end up going like, have I done something wrong? Like, and then over text, and then you overanalyze, and then you just want to cry. So there's so many different ways that you can look at RSD that enters into your life, whether it's like through friendships, relationships, and even through learning as well. So I'll give you an example. I did a business mentorship, um, and it wasn't a very good one. It wasn't very good, but um, each day you'd have an opportunity to go onto a call in a group setting. I will say, if you can hear little tap tapping, my dogs are just being nightmares today. They're not playing ball, right? But anyway, yeah, I did a business mentorship, and each day we had a different call, so it'd be different things, but it could range from 10 plus people on these calls. So one of the days was like graphic design, and that was something I was really interested in and I loved doing it. So I did a thing on Canva. I was so proud of it, like just because I've never used Canva before. So the fact I created this carousel, I was like, yeah, boss that, sick. And you basically have to upload it for them to go over it on a call. And I didn't do this for weeks, but I thought, no, I'm really proud of this. Like, I want them to give me, feedback, because I thought in my head, no, they're going to say, no changes, like, you've smashed this. Um, and he literally said to me, like, this is really good, but what I would do is I'd put X, Y, and Z in and it looked really good. Now, in my brain, I didn't hear, this is really good. This is really good. Like, I feel Theo's gonna bark then. This is really good. My brain heard, this is shit. This is so bad. Why are you doing this? Why are you bothering? Like, that's what I could hear in my brain. And then I was like, no, I didn't change it. I didn't make any of the changes because I thought, no, I like it. And I was so stubborn, and then we can become really defensive about it. So I didn't change it. And I look back down, I was like, what he was telling me to change was really good. Now, if I'd made those changes, my content would have been so much better, but your brain sort of doesn't take it as it's being said, almost. And this is what a lot of my girlies struggle with as well. Like, you almost just pick out the worst things, and it usually comes from like insecurities and fears and things like that. So, like one of my clients, for example, she went through something, I won't say in detail, but she was like, no, they hate me. They absolutely hate me. Like, I'm this, I'm that, I'm horrendous. And when she told me what they said, I was like, they didn't say any of those things. They didn't say any of those things at all. So basically, what our brain starts doing is just filling in the gaps. And it's filling out gaps with our fears and insecurities. So, if your insecurity is, I'm too much or I'm annoying, because you might have had some childhood traumas where it made you feel not very confident, not many friends. So if something like that happens, those gaps then will be, I'm annoying, no one likes me, I have no friends, like, and you start self-sabotaging, because when you self-sabotage, your brain is basically protecting you, but it's not. It's almost like if I disappoint myself, no one else can disappoint me. So I'll sabotage myself before anyone else can sabotage me. And your brain basically goes into threat mode. So it's like, I'm under threat. Something's going to happen to me. I am not safe. So there's so many different things, as I said, with rejection, sensitivity, dysphoria, that it can crop up. And it can even be like fitness goals as well. So, you know, if you're new to fitness, you might have delayed going into fitness because of your own insecurities and limiting beliefs. So, you know, you might think to yourself, do you know what, like, I can never stick to a diet. I can never go into the gym. I can never do that. And it's because you're scared of being rejected. So you're scared of looking silly in the gym. You're scared of showing up and people staring at you or wherever. Do you know what I mean? So it can be like that. And even my girls who compete, they'll have this as well. So if they go from lifestyle to competitive level, then some of them take a little bit longer, and it's because their mindset is just not there. And I'll give you another example of this, because I feel like when you story tell, people understand a little bit more, and I feel like you can relate to a little bit more. So like when you go into like competing world, obviously you're there to be judged, right? You're there to be judged. It's not easy being judged, because especially being neurodivergent, they're judging your physique. They're not judging you specifically as a person, like how you show up day to day. They are just looking at your physique and they're comparing it to the next one. Now, when I say out loud, right, it seems like super scary, right? And it is, I suppose, because it's not nice being judged next to someone else, because we always say, don't compare yourself to anyone else. But with competing, it's not necessarily exactly judging your physique next to someone else. It's judging you by who fits the criteria most, if that makes sense. So like obviously with the wellness division, you know, they have their own criteria, bikini, fit model, whatever it is, they all have their own divisions and criteria that you have to follow. Now, one of my clients came second, right? And I know she won't mind me saying this because she's amazing, but she was so gutted by it. She was so gutted by it. Now, most people never come top three ever in their life, right? And it was just like she just felt rejected. It was like, oh, I'm not good enough, like, you know. And you look at the person who won, and she was incredible, right? And you can clearly see she was a little bit further along, she was older, like you could just see the difference, right? But she felt extremely rejected, you know. So it's like these things then, especially if you want to be like an athlete, it's just like you need to look at this and take a step back, pause, and be like, right, that's not a bash of my character. It just means I'm not there yet. And I'm now going to use this motivation to come back and be better. Now, with a neurodivergent brain, that's not our thought process. Our thought process is, instead of, right, okay, can't wait for my new training program. I can't wait to bring up the areas I need. Like, and I just can't wait to come and smash it. It is like, oh, I don't think I want to compete anymore. I don't think this is for me. And again, it's your brain trying to protect you from basically not being disappointed again, because you don't look at those judges judging your physique. You are looking at them as if they're judging your whole entire life, as if they know where you live and what you do as a job and how well you do in the gym. They don't care. They don't know if you train 4 times, twice. Like, they don't have a clue. They just know what you bring to the stage. So and it can be not just with fitness, it can be with your job. For example, you know, like if you've got a project doing work, and you do it on time, and they're like, okay, this is awesome, but next time can we make sure we do this instead? Again, you don't look at it as like, do you know, I'm so proud of myself because this deadline was really unrealistic. Like, I smashed it, they were really happy with it, and I only had one bit of feedback. Your brain is like, I'm never doing that project again. Like, they hate me. I'm going to get sacked. Like, oh my gosh. Like, we always go to the worst case scenario. And as I said, like, the reason why we go to the worst case scenario is literally because our brain thinks we're under threat. So we are trying to protect ourselves from what is going on. And there's so many ways you can like deal with this as well, because you might even have it from coaches as well. Like, I've seen it personally, especially because obviously, if you don't know, obviously I coach a lot of neurodivergent women. I've seen a lot of women who obviously they come to me because they want to change, but some of them are just not ready to be coached yet. And when I say this, I don't mean it in a nasty way at all. It's just their mindset is just not there yet. And they need to be able to trust me for me to help rewire their brain. So some of them are just not ready for that stage yet. So when I'm coaching them and I'm telling them something to be better, to change, they take it a little bit negatively. So like, for example, like this is not a true story, by the way, I'm just giving you an example. Like if my client, for example, was doing a photo shoot prep and she said to me, oh, I've had a really rubbish few days. I've been off plan for the full week, right? I would always say to them, right, okay, like next time, message me as soon as that one day of shittiness happens, message me straight away, because that's when I'm going to be most likely to rewire your brain, because I can catch your thought process of why you're spiraling, and then what we can put in place, right? So I'll always say that first. And then I'll say like what happened, because there'll always be a trigger, right? There'll always be a trigger of why you fall off, whether it's stress, whether it's been a change to your routine. Like one of my clients the other day, like she didn't think she had a trigger, but her partner went away for a week. And even though on paper that's not a trigger, she obviously felt a little bit lost. It was a change in her routine because he's not there. So anything like that can sort of happen. And like if I said to them like, that first, and then said like, right, okay, if you want to do this photo shoot prep, like we really need to now like nail the basics, like, let's just reset, ease yourself back into things. She would have like, they would have never like listened to what I said at the start or at the end. All she would have heard was, oh well, you just said now that I'm not sticking to it and I'm not doing very good. Even though those words never left my mouth, that's what your brain is sort of picking up, is like, I'm not good enough. I'm never gonna be shoot ready. I'm shit. Do you know what I mean? So you can see where I'm going with this, but like that's what your brain basically does. And then sometimes like when that happens, they want to leave, which is fine. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm used to clients, leaving, coming back, whatever. But when someone's mindset is not there yet, where they will not reach out to me, I'm great at my job, right? Not to toot my own horn, but I am great at my job. But I'm not Jesus, right? So if someone's struggling and they don't tell me, what am I meant to do with that? So if my clients are just not in a position yet to trust the coach, I cannot do anything to change that. And especially when I give feedback like, okay, next time message me straight away or within the day, because obviously when you sort of are in that headspace, we feel a bit ashamed, we feel like nobody likes us, and we want to sort of isolate ourselves from the world, where we don't want to be around anyone. So in that like time, it's just better than obviously to just cut my losses and be like, right, okay. And obviously I'll never say to that client, sorry, but my dog, I'll never say to my client like, oh, you're not there yet, you need to go and get therapy. I'd never ever say that. So when someone's just not ready to trust yet, obviously they do become uncoachable. And that can be like difficult to hear. I'd never say that to my clients ever, like, oh, you're uncoachable, because that's like the worst thing I could possibly say. But I accept it if someone wants to leave. I'd be fine with that. I'm like, yeah, no, absolutely. Do you know what I mean? But I do also recommend therapy to some of my clients as well. Not in a bad way. Like I have therapy, I think it's amazing. And it's one of the biggest things that really helped me with RSD. Because I struggled with RSD a lot when I was younger, especially when I was in school. Like when my friends had better grades than me and things like that, and I didn't, like I felt rejected. When I went through to college, it was the same. But it was almost like everything down to paper, because it came down to my self-worth of like, you're not bright enough, like you're never gonna become anything, like you're gonna be working at McDonald's for the rest of your life. And nothing wrong with McDonald's, by the way, if you work at McDonald's, but obviously, that's not good if that's like the only choice you have. Do you know what I mean? When all your friends are like going to uni, they're going to become teachers, social workers, whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's like we start looking, as I said, at the worst case scenario. And as I said, like I want to speak about this one just because RSD is probably one of the biggest things that I speak about to my clients. Because it makes you feel like, I want to explain it, like it makes you feel like your world's ending. Like honestly, the anxiety you feel, like you're feeling so many emotions at once of like rejection, anxiety, you want to cry, you almost then feel numb, you can feel shaky, and you just feel lost. You're like, oh my gosh, this is horrendous. Do you know what I mean? And even my girlies with dating and things like that, dating websites can be really difficult, because obviously when you start dating, it can feel like even if you went on one date or two dates with a guy, for example, or a woman, whatever, and then they decide like, oh, actually, this is not for me, that can feel like we've been in a relationship with them for 10 years. Like, it would feel the same to us because we just feel like, absolutely not, like, this is not happening to me, because again, you then reflect on you, it's because I'm not pretty enough. You don't even know, like, you could even ask them like, oh, why, whatever, but we just assume. So we assume based on our fears and insecurities, oh, I'm not pretty enough, like they've found someone better, like whatever. And I had a conversation actually a few months ago with one of my clients. She was dating a guy, and she didn't really like him, and she said that to me. She was like, I don't really like him, like, he's not my person, whatever. And he ended up cutting it off with her. He obviously felt the same. Do you know what I mean? If you feel like that, your energy's just going to show to that person, do you know, if you don't really like them. And he cut her off first, right? And she was so upset by it. And she was like, I don't even know why I'm crying, because I didn't even like this person. But because he got there first, you feel rejected, because it's then like, it's not about then you. It's not about you being like, oh, I'm not really into this person. It's now that person's not into you. And now you feel like this wave of emotions of like, oh my God, the person I didn't even like doesn't like me. So what does that say about me? Do you know what I mean? So it's like, then it just twists into this whole story. But the thing is, with rejection sensitivity, in order to handle it, because I'll tell you how to handle it, because I think it's really important, the best thing you can do is just pause, stop, because the thing is, with ADHD, we're impulsive, so we act on impulse straight away. We don't think about what we say, we just act, and sometimes that can get us into trouble. So you're better off pausing. And if you're not very good at doing this on your own, like my girls now, some of them are amazing. Well, they're all amazing, but when it comes to this, they're amazing, right? So they'll message me straight away, they'll tell me what happened, and I'll unpick it for them, because sometimes when you're in a state of like emotion, you can't tell what is reality and what is made up. You can't tell, right? So having someone else who's understanding, because if you do, because loads of my girlies I've spoken to, their friends are not very accepting or supportive because they've not had a diagnosis yet. Now, I hate that, because it's like, you don't need a COVID test to know you're unwell. You just know you're unwell. Do you know what I mean? So if you have these struggles, your friends should support you. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, when you just pause, right? And then just look at the situation and then be like, okay, let's try and figure out what is facts and what is not facts. Because the thing is, our thoughts are not facts, right? And when my therapist said this to me, I was like, oh my gosh, like, it was like a penny dropped. And even though that's obvious, it's not obvious when a million horrible like sabotages are just hitting us in our heads. Like, thoughts are not facts. They are made up purely on fears and insecurities. So whatever your insecurity is, so it could be, as I said, annoying, whatever your biggest insecurity is, they're the things that are going to come up, right? But it's based on fears and insecurities. So they're not facts, right? So how I like to do this, and this is the biggest thing that helped me learn what was fake and what was real, was just by writing everything down. Because whatever happens, you then, I'll say your brain, right? Your brain then likes to make a story up with those points, right? So, for example, like, if you saw someone nearly get knocked over, we would then be like, oh my God, they nearly got knocked over. Like, oh my God, can you imagine what that would happen? Oh my God, he could have lost his job and he'd lose his family. Like, we then make a full story up, but then our brains start to believe it, right? So I always say to my girls, right, write everything down, but bullet point them. Don't do it into a paragraph. Write them into sentences. Everything now that you're telling me. And then be like, right, okay. Then pick out each part, like each bit of evidence behind those thought process, right? Because what happens then is that you'll realize there's no evidence. There's no evidence at all. There's none, right? So your brain then starts realizing, okay, this isn't actually factual. This is just completely made up by my insecurities and my fears, right? So as I said, you can either do that on your own, but if you're in a high state and if you are someone who really struggles with RSD, it is good to do this with a partner, with a friend, with a coach if you have one, so they can pick it out for you. Because for me, like, obviously when it happens to me, even though I'm really good at getting out of it now, It never used to be. Like, I used to be spiraling. Like, I used to think, like, I felt like I couldn't breathe. That's the only way I could describe it. I feel like I couldn't breathe. So for me to try and pick it apart myself then probably wouldn't have been very successful. But as I said, like, when one of my clients came to me the other day, um, she made up this full story. And I do find it honestly like amazing to see how our brains sort of like proceed and like just worked when things like this happens. But she told me this full story. And when she actually told me what the person said, none of that come from that. But she clung on to what she thought was reality, what she thought was factual, but in fact it was just based on her deepest insecurities. Um, and then if you're in a spiral, because you basically your nervous system's just out of whack, let's just call it that, right? So sometimes we just need to regulate ourselves first before doing that, because if you are in a complete meltdown, it will be hard to sit down and try and write on paper. So there's a few ways you can do that, and it can be go into your bathroom, splashing cold water on you just to breathe. It can be going for a walk, speedy walk. Like, well, I don't know if you can see my dog, he knows that word. But straight away, just going out, just changing your environment up. Because what it's allowing you to do then is taking yourself out of that state and then putting you into a fresh state, right? Where you're not acting on impulse anymore. Because when we are acting on impulse, sometimes it can be from a people pleaser perspective, or sometimes it can be from a not very nice perspective. So we can be really defensive and we can end up being quite mean and quite nasty. And then what happens is when we are regulated, we are full of guilt because we're like, oh my God, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that at all. You know, so like, for example, like if let's think you are a partner, for example, and they made plans with you, right? And then they decided, well, not decided, if they realize, oh my God, I've got to work, like I've got to work, I've got to go to work. We feel rejected. Sometimes we can be like a people pleaser, being like, oh my God, no, it's absolutely fine. Like I shouldn't have expected that from you anyway. I'm so selfish. I'm so sorry. Like I'm so sorry I asked you to do that. So you can either go from that way, or it'll go to the defensive side of like, you don't love me, like why are we even together, like this is fucking bullshit, like, you know, you mean nothing to me anymore. Like it can go from either way, right? And obviously once we're out of that state of impulse and our nervous system's back on check, that's when we're like, oh my gosh, like why am I doing that? Because obviously being the people pleaser, then we go into the state of being like, I'm annoying, like I'm too much. And if it goes to the defense state, it's like, I'm a horrible person, I'm so horrible. So the first thing you want to look at doing is like re-regulate yourself. And whatever way, like for me, I like to re-regulate by colouring. Some people like to read. I hate reading. So I'd rather just colour, because you're thinking about it, you're focusing in then, but you're not having to think of anything. Do you know what I mean? So I do that. And then try and splash water on your face, or, you know, you can go do a speedy steps, I'll say. I won't say the W word because they will jump up. And that's what you want to sort of do, because at the end of the day, when something happens, we do want to react straight away, but that's what gets us in trouble. So obviously just taking a minute to think about it, you'll find then, if as I said, if it was like a message, for example, if you received a message you didn't really like, if we were to react straight away, we would read that message completely different compared to if we re-regulated ourselves, took a second, and then read it again. You'll find you will read that completely different, because your brain is so fast, you will just pick up what you want from that message instead of actually what is actually on that message. It gives you that time. So that's really important to do that. But as I said, like if you do have someone to body W through that, you'll find you will calm down a lot quicker because you have someone there. And even if they don't know what to do, like I literally trained Ben. Like I trained Ben of what to do and things like that when I hit a place of feeling rejected or panicked or overwhelmed or whatever. Like I trained Ben on what to do to support me, because sometimes like your partners just nag you, don't they? They're like, are you okay? Are you okay? Like, are you sure you're okay? Is it me? Is it me? And then all of a sudden then you become so overstimulated. You're like, now it is you. It wasn't you, but now it is you. Please get away. Leave me alone. So I just think it's really good if you do that. You'll have to mind Theo. He's been on one today and he is growling at something. It's probably a squirrel. As I said, like if you are in a position, for example, someone messages you and you're like, you want to respond straight away, but now you've learned what I've told you, and you're like, oh, right, okay, I don't really want to not message this person back, you know, in a day or so. I want to message back now. All you need to do is be like, hey, thank you so much for this message. I'm just gonna read through it, and I'll just get back to you. It obviously depends who is with. Like with Ben now, I will say like, oh look, I'm not gonna reply to that right away because I just feel a bit rejected. Or I'll just say it as it is. Like say it out loud. Like what is it that you're feeling? Because when you literally say it out loud, you can make sense of it. Like, what is it that you feel? Name it. Like, do you feel ashamed? Do you feel insecure? Like, what is it? Because then, if whoever's, it might not even be someone, it might just be you, but normally it does include someone else. Just say it to them. Just be like, hey, I just feel a bit rejected. It's not you. I just need to take a beat. I'm just going to get back to you in a few hours. I hope that's okay. Leave it there. Go and regulate yourself. Do you know what I mean? But do not act on impulse, because honestly, when you act on impulse, you're opening a door to guilt, shame, and then you feel 100 million times worse then, because you're just panicking and you're spiraling. You're going from up here, down here, and you just feel anxious, so anxious, right? But I hope this helped. I really wanted to cover this one because it's a massive one that so many of my girls experience in completely different ways, whether it's dating, work, studies, uni, like whatever you can possibly think of. We can have a level of rejection from it because we just don't value ourselves enough. So I'm here to make sure that you start loving yourselves more, and you value yourself and you know your self-worth. That's what I'm here to do. But I hope you like this podcast. I'm excited to do the next one. So yeah.